Good
Welcome
evening.
back. Florida Man Does Weather here. We've got some fun shenanigans. This weekend was really nice, and we really didn't want it to be. It looked like it was going to be a nice rain out, lots of good storms, similar to last weekend. But no, the stationary front went all the way down to Naples. So we got a bunch of dry spots. Any convection that we did get was weak, low top showers, and those are boring. Josh, why don't you break down this stupid, ugly trough?
Will do. But that being said, unlike Caleb, on Sunday night, I did get my fair share of excitement as there was a very strong storm system that set up over eastern Hillsborough County and proceeded in 2 hours to dump 6 inches of rain in Plant City and almost 5 inches of rain at my residence. So I got to watch the retention pond rise significantly in just a matter of 2 hours. But yes, good times. Besides that isolated incident, we've gotten absolutely nothing. This big, gigantic, dark streak that you see on the map, that is the trough that is being mentioned in the discussion. We have a stationary front that pushed south of us, which allowed the intrusion of mid-level dry air. That is what we were talking about. That is why Florida, you have had clear skies today with oppressive humidity at the surface. Nowhere near that humid at the higher levels, thanks to this trough pushing this pipeline of dry air in. Now, as you can notice, there's a line of storms right about the Florida Straits and in the southern Gulf. That is your stationary front, and it kind of curves out over Grand Bahama, Great Abaco, where that low pressure system that was swirling off of Cape Canaveral has meandered. This stationary front, as you notice, as time goes on, it gets harder to see. That's because it's starting to wash out, which is what happens with fronts when they come down here and park. They just kind of come down here to die. That being said, there's a new front that's pushing in behind it. It's currently starting to intrude into the Florida Panhandle. What we get in regards to weather the rest of the week is largely dependent on what happens with this front. Does it stop north of Tampa? Does it push all the way south? If it stops north of Tampa, then we could be seeing some more storms this week. If it pushes south of Tampa, we're in the same ugly pattern we've been in the last few days. Hopping over here to the next tab, this is a graphical representation of what we were talking about. You've got your stationary boundary just stretched out there. Now, this was a little bit earlier, so the frontal boundary doesn't quite look like it did earlier. It's in a little bit of a different position. This was at 4:36 p.m., and the time of this recording is 9 o'clock, so the front has shifted more, further south in the last 5 hours. Um, that low has begun to eject off to the northeast a little bit. It is expected to kind of just meander out there for the next few days. There is a low pressure system that's moving its way across the Gulf right now, but with that boundary pulling all of the dry air out, we're probably not going to see much for the next few days. All right, Caleb, you want to break down what's going on in the Atlantic?
All right, so we've got a new player. Look just southwest of the Azores. This little tropical wave left the coast about Sunday, and this is going to become Gabrielle. That is the next name up. It's not looking likely to become Gabrielle within the short term, but sometime later this week into the weekend, that could be the next move. Joshua, do you mind kind of circling that lobe southwest? Yeah, that's where it
Right here.
is. Really that tip, that northern tip of it is the main area of concern. Further south, it's a little bit closer to the equator. It's more in the intertropical convergence zone. And generally, you can get waves to come out of there, but a lot of the time they'll just stay trapped altogether within that stormy flow that you just see belting all the way across to the eastern Pacific. But where does old Gabsters go? Pull up those models.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. There is no coherent idea on where this goes. This is what hour of the run? 300 something?
This is hour 300 on the nose.
So,
Here,
hour
you can
300, we
go ahead and bring
have
it back.
a million different solutions for Gabby, but the general idea is it's going to keep moving west along the bottom of the Atlantic steering high that you see there. And whatever happens with these troughs in the eastern half of the US, if that's still there, that's going to basically be a shield for anything coming off of the coast of Africa for the time being, including Gabby. Now, how strong of a shield that is, where exactly it's positioned, how far east it is, how it's tilted, which, that's your orientation of your trough, actually. That'll dictate where Gabsters eventually recurves. And right now, no real coherent ideas on
Absolutely
that.
not.
The fact that it'll recurve. You'll see these individual operational model runs out there where it's running into Bermuda as like a 940s hurricane, but that's at hour 300. So there's plenty of time for things to change. As you can see in the Atlantic itself, there's a lot of different ideas on where that steering high could set up. And wherever that sets up, however strong that high is, that is going to dictate where Gabby rides because hurricanes like to ride the edge of ridges. And if there's a weakness in that edge, it'll follow it. And that weakness is usually generated by a trough, low pressure system, anything like that. So, personally, thinking there's not many avenues for Gabby to make it to the US. But if I'm in Bermuda, I'm watching. I'm watching real close. But, one scenario is there's a little bit of dry air coming out in the Atlantic from that Saharan air. So if Gabby continues to remain weak, and Josh is circling where that dry air is, if it ingests
It's
some
right
dry
here.
air every couple of days, stays weaker, and somehow makes it into the Leeward Islands as a very weak system, then it would be open season because it's between the trough that's over the eastern US. It's in a low area of shear and it's in very high oceanic heat content waters. But that's a very, very low probability scenario. Like, I think every ensemble run, there's only like one or two members of a 51 or so member ensemble that are actually doing that. So for the time being, we just sit back, watch what Gabsters does, and until then, we really don't have anything to watch other than this annoying, stupid, giant off-season dumb trough that has dried us out, taken any night lightning opportunities away from me. I've only had 3 days of that, and I've been trying to catch up quite a bit. I have a lot of work to do. I would like to catch up. I want more. We need more storms. I like rain. I also like nice weather, but I want it to wait for the dry season. I
Yes.
like the wet season to be wet.
And to play the devil's advocate, Caleb, I'll just be the guy in the room that points out too. A lot of like if you look at the ensemble runs, like the actual your stereotypical spaghetti models of what will end up being future Gabby in all likelihood, a lot of them have it exhibiting some really weird behavior for the first 24 hours, shooting up like north northwest before curving more on an eastern track. Now, it remains to be seen if those models are trying to pick up on this lobe in the steering currents or not. But the wave's motion is not reflective of that sharp jump 3 degrees to the north before progressing west. So I do think that the models are possibly initializing the core of the wave poorly a little bit. That's to be expected with open waves. Just bear in mind, while the current solutions are curving it out to sea in general, um, I'm just going to play devil's advocate and say you can't write this one off because, one, there's that stark possibility the models are initializing the center poorly. And while the storm's weak, that low pressure system can teleport anywhere, quite literally, it can teleport anywhere it wants in that open wave. So until you get an organized center of convection, that low can kind of slide under and coalesce. That low can literally teleport anywhere in that wave that it wants. Now, granted, there's a lot of factors to that. It's not just it's not a sentient being. It can't just teleport like that. But in layman's terms, the low pressure system can, yes, practically teleport around inside that wave as it tries to find a cohesive point. So that bears watching. If it ends up coalescing on the southern part of the wave and it continues west, like Kaleb said, it hits the Leeward Islands, it's game on. If it hits the Leeward Islands and makes it through, it's game on. We all need to be watching it closely at that point. But if it forms on the northern end, which is the kind of the consensus right now, then it will probably recurve out to sea. So there's two kind of modes of thinking right now, and then obviously you've got a few solutions on the in between. You just got to watch it and see. There's not really anything else going on. Something I did want to point out on this model run, ignore the fact that there's a giant 928 hurricane in the Gulf on one ensemble run. Okay. That's not what I'm wanting to talk about. It's one ensemble run at 300 something hours. You know how we feel about that. If it's beyond 120, individual runs are garbage. But this is the important part. If you look as we go out, like we've said, beyond 120, you look at signals. This is 282. We're looking at signals. If you look at the Yucatan and Central America, you see how the area is starting to light up yellow. That's indications that the CAG is beginning to wake. Okay. And for
Central
those of you,
American gyre, by the way. That's what that is.
exactly, the Central American gyre. And for those of you who don't know what the Central American gyre is, consider it the mothership for the Western Caribbean. This giant region of low pressure forms over Central America and it rotates, and regions of low pressure rotate around this counterclockwise system that sits in the latter part of the season, and it spits out storms in the Eastern Pacific, spits down storms in the Caribbean, and it spits out storms in the Southern Gulf. A lot of our big monsters that we've had over the last few years have been birthed by the Central American gyre. Notable names: Michael, Helene, even Milton. Milton was a crossover storm, but Milton was birthed as a result of the Central American gyre as well. So you get very big storms that come out of the CAG sometimes. So the fact that the CAG is starting to wake up in the next 2 weeks, like I said, we're not looking at the big scary run that's saying there's a 928 running in Louisiana. We're ignoring that. We're also ignoring the fact that there's at 360, it's saying there's a tropical storm that comes in right behind it. None of that's going to happen that way. That's all like the model just being weird. What we're looking at is we're looking at the signal. And the signal here, as you can see, that big region of yellow, the CAG is starting to wake up. That's going to be the region of interest we've been saying for the back half of the season, September into October. And so, yeah, it's been quiet. You got to think last season was quiet too until the CAG woke up, and then it was monster after monster for a couple of weeks. That could very well happen this year. Don't want to be a fearmonger or anything, but you can never discount the CAG, especially in a setup like this year where anything that forms there will be pulled to the north. So obviously the good news is weeks out, there's nothing out there. There's nothing even out there forming in the immediate near future. But the models are suggesting that the CAG will be awakening over the next 14 days, and then we may have some fun things to be looking at after that. Kaleb, any
Mm-hmm.
wrapping up thoughts that you want to give to the people?
Final little thoughts regarding these little frontal intrusions into the Gulf. Those can sometimes act as generation points for tropical systems, homegrown, homeborn, homebrew type of systems, and we are seeing some signals there. They're very weak signals, and again, with this trough in place, anything that tries to form will have to form in a very small pocket of lower shear, but that's something to watch as well. Depends on how strong your trough is, how far south fronts get. But yeah, other than that, nothing.
So with that, we will let you guys go, and we will just keep an eye on things. I know we haven't been on doing forecasts much, but I mean there hasn't been really anything to forecast. We've been kind of locked in this weird pattern over the
Not
last
even
several
severe
weeks.
weather. Like
Yes,
it's
just
just been
it's
marginal
just
days.
just weird weather. The best thing we've been being able to get you guys was lightning time lapses, and even that's been taken away from us.
Hmm.
So rest assured, even when we're not forecasting, we're still watching. As soon as something out forms out there or starts to form, we will be on here cutting a video to let you guys know. Till then, stay out of trouble, and we will see you next time.
Florida man out.